said today. I'm like,
I joined the lodge. I had to do memory.
Good evening.
right to principal.
Very quiet, very quickly. Good job, everybody. Welcome to the Norfolk Ward 5 Debate Night. My name is Emma Brown, and I'm a director with the Simcoe and District Chamber of Commerce. We're going to open with a land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge the territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Attawandaron, upon which the County of Norfolk stands, and where many of us live and work. We strive to honor the Two-Row Wampum Belt Treaty as respectful neighbors on this land. We would also like to pay respect to the elders of Turtle Island, also known as North America, both past and present, and extend that respect to all Indigenous peoples. At this time, I would like to take a moment of silence in respect to the passing of Queen Elizabeth. Can I ask everyone to rise? And we'll sing the national anthem. Thank you for all your lovely voices. Elections are an important part of the democratic process. Your vote makes a difference. Elected officials affect your everyday lives, and voting is one of the few chances you can have to have a direct impact on your community. The Simcoe and District Chamber of Commerce is dedicated to facilitating a process whereby you can find out what the candidates stand for so you can make an informed decision on October 24th. At this time, I'd like to introduce members of the Board of Directors. We have Renee Van Kooten. We have Catherine Akins, Allison Muir. We have our timer, Wendy Brown. A few housekeeping points. Questions have been compiled by members of the Chamber of Commerce and the general public prior to this evening. Questions have been vetted by the Executive Committee of the Chamber to ensure that the candidates are asked relevant questions that are important to our community. There will be no questions from the floor. We ask that there be no hollering, booing, or comments when the candidates are speaking. Please put your phones to silent or turn them off completely. We ask that all candidates be treated respectfully while speaking or answering a question. The evening is being live streamed on the Simcoe Chamber's Facebook account and will be available on the Chamber Facebook account after the event tonight. Just for everybody's awareness, bathrooms are located to the right, just through those doors. And now we're going to introduce our candidates. All Ward 5 candidates for Norfolk were invited to this event. The candidates joining us tonight are Peter Black, Doug Brunton, Alan Duthie, Brian Jones, and Christine Mitchell. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for opening and closing remarks and 1 minute to answer questions. We're going to start alphabetically, and we'll start with Peter.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this democratic event. and especially Terry and Sue and Emma for all their hard work, and to my fellow candidates for offering to serve our community. It's not an easy task to come up here and put yourself in front of so many people and expose ourselves to you, and I congratulate them for doing that. You know, I've always tried, as a politician, a former politician, to be nice to constituents and say positive things. So, you know, why don't some people like me? I guess it's just the nature of politics, and that one will never make everyone happy. As a matter of fact, I use this as my performance measurement. When no one is happy, I know I've done a good job. Of course, issues are important, but there is more to it. We need representatives that are good decision makers and leaders. Municipal World magazine says council should be made up of leaders who are proactive and intentional instead of reactive and accidental. We need emotionally mature leaders who are able to take legitimate community concerns into account without being held hostage by dissenting voices. A sense of humor is a must. A councillor is a decision maker and must take the time to thoroughly read staff reports, ask questions, listen to constituent concerns, represent them at council, and of course, above all, considering the tax dollars with fiscal responsibility, frugality, and accountability. Balance in economy, environment, and social justice provides stability, and stability comes from people with experience and informed judgment.
Thank you, Peter. Doug?
Thank you and good evening. I hope by now you have received my flyer in the mail. I were out last week. If you didn't see me after the meeting, I will provide you with one. 4 years ago, I sat in this same venue, and I spoke of this function's important areas in which I had concerns. County finances, bringing water from the lake, owning and not renting the Robinson Street building, and the high price of oil and its impact on county budgets. Interest rates are increasing. It will be more expensive to debenture capital projects. The 2021 audited budget was dealt with Tuesday night at council. I was there. The auditor had some very interesting quotes in that. Our outstanding debt, the projected debt, may soon put Norfolk County in a position of having to choose which projects can go forward, which ones will have to wait, as the county is nearing its imposed debt limit. The county has a vast, depleting reserves and reserve fund balances are still below ideal levels. The county has a vast infrastructure spread over 400,000 acres, estimated at well over $1 billion. With the population of 65,000, it is estimated only half use and pay for that system. Fluctuating oil prices have a major impact on the county projects such as asphalt paving, tar and chip applications, and fuel purchases. In closing, we must set our priorities based on need and not wants. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Alan?
Well, good evening. As mentioned, my name is Alan Duthie, and I want to thank you for attending tonight. Thanks as well to the Chamber of Commerce for putting on this important event. I am an almost lifelong resident of Norfolk County, having grown up in Port Dover. Professionally, I'm the general manager of Norfolk's 2 radio stations, and I'm very actively involved in a number of causes locally. I've served almost 20 years with the Norfolk County Fair and Horse Show, including a 2-year term as president, and prior to filing my nomination, I have been a director and former president of the Simcoe Chamber of Commerce. I'm also one of the co-founders of 100 Norfolk Men Who Give a Damn, and to date, our organization has donated more than $200,000 to Norfolk charities. I'm a husband and a dad to 3 amazing kids, and I live right here in Simcoe. Do you remember when Simcoe was known for its beautiful parks? When we had the nicest tree-lined streets? When our downtown was a thriving hub for retail and business? When the voices of our community members were heard? I believe that we have a really wonderful community here in Simcoe and in Norfolk County. It is a terrific place to raise a family, to spend your working days, and to retire to. I want to get our community back to some of those long-held values and ideals. I want to serve as a counselor, as your counselor, to ensure that others growing up right now, your children and your grandchildren, have those same opportunities. I'm running in this election to make sure that your voice is heard on local issues as we build the Simcoe and Norfolk that we want to be. We have work to do. We've got problems to fix: aging infrastructure, crumbling streets and bridges, water and wastewater challenges, outdated and costly rec facilities, addiction and homelessness, parking issues, staff shortages, and the list goes on. Now, I'm not naive about what I'm entering into, but I believe my experience, my professionalism, and my ability to work under pressure, to bring people in, work together, and get things done will serve our community well. I believe we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Brian?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Ms. Brown. Good evening, Ms. Brown. Good evening, Ms. Downs. Good evening, chamber members and board members, and good evening to all of you. It is great to see so many familiar faces here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brian Jones. Hi, everybody. Okay, quick bio. I was born and raised in Woodstock, went to the University of Windsor studying English and communications. I am a professional writer and a marketing expert who helps our local businesses become locally famous through my company Pen and Keys Communications and my partnership in Shop Our Town. I spent 6 years with Mr. Duthie at MyFM and wrote and voiced over 2,000 commercials heard across Ontario. I'm a published author and a licensed private investigator. I've been the president of the Halton and Norfolk United Way, a founding board member of the Capital Arts Market, a board member of Norfolk as Talent, a founding board member of Art with Heart, a Rotarian. I helped Holy Trinity students build a car to race in the Baja 1000 off-road race. For the last 3+ years, I've been the communications chair of the board of the Downtown Simcoe BIA, and last November, I launched the Downtown Simcoe Homelessness Solutions Roundtable. I came to Norfolk 24 years ago on a 90-day project to turn around an underperforming window dealership. I never left. Kind of fell in love with this place. On my campaign literature is the image of a raised hand, because I believe that living in a successful community is not a spectator sport. And living in a community trying to be successful simply requires more. More volunteers, more energy, more ideas, and more solutions. I am solutions focused. I'm not going to wring my hands over the past. I don't have a time machine. I can't go back and fix it. I'm not going to waste time on things I can't fix. This is where we are at. And I've got some ideas. I'm moving us forward. I hope you do too, because I want to hear them. I represent you. I will be your voice, and I'll make sure you're heard. Raise your hand if you want a better community tomorrow than we have today. Me too. Please vote for me and let's get rolling. We've got work to do.
Thank you, Brian. Christine?
For those of you that don't know me, my name is Christine Mitchell. I grew up in Haldeman, but chose to raise my family here in Norfolk. I've worked in Simcoe for the past 13 years, most of that being in the downtown core. My professional experience is mostly healthcare based, but I have recently transitioned out of healthcare and am currently working as a payroll specialist as part of the finance team of a local mutual insurance company. My slogan for my campaign is that I'm for the average folk. I chose this slogan because I feel as if the average citizen of Norfolk County is not well represented in council. Although I am educated, I am not university educated. I'm not a business owner and have no affiliations with any local businesses. I also have no family history within the agricultural sector. I am not known well by name by the people of Simcoe, but guess what? I know you. I was a dental assistant in downtown Simcoe for 10 years. I'm the one who was listening every time there was an unpopular vote made in council. Whether you're a farmer, a person on public assistance, or a working class family, these decisions that council made affected you all in a different way. We talked about this while we were waiting for your freezing to take effect or waiting for the dentist to perform a check in another room. I was the one that was at the front desk working through your benefits with you. And if you were struggling financially, I was the one trying my best to find you a social service program that you could qualify for in order to ease some of your financial strain. I was there when your mother needed to be placed in a retirement facility, giving you a tour of the home that I managed. We spoke about the failings of the home care system in Ontario and what community services had deficiencies. You may not remember me by my name, but I'm positive that some of you remember my care and consideration while helping you deal with difficult situations. At the end of the day, I'm just an average person that wants to be part of ensuring that Norfolk continues to be a community where we look after each other, where our children can return to after college or university, and where we can run the corporation of Norfolk County with an open and honest council that's willing to work together to make the hard decisions. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to start our question period. So just a reminder to the candidates, you have 1 minute to answer the question. We'll begin in alphabetical order. Please be mindful of time and listen for the bell. So question number 1. Some current councillors have previously indicated that there is a lack of cohesion and teamwork at the council table. Do you see this as a problem? And if so, how would you, as a councillor, rectify that? We'll start with Peter.
I see it as a problem, and I've heard from many people that it is a problem. I can tell you that I still have friendly relationships with a lot of the employees, and 3 years ago, when a lot were so-called being retired or let go, I was attending a lot of their goodbye ceremonies, and I can tell you right now, a lot of them were crying on my shoulder about the chaotic nature of Norfolk County Council. And in some respects, you know, I don't blame the council 100% because a lack of experience. There was 2 former councilors there, and the rest were all brand new, including the mayor. What would you expect, you know, with someone that doesn't have the experience to run an over $250 million corporation? It's you wouldn't take someone off the street and make them a principal of a high school. Why would you take someone and make them the mayor of Norfolk County?
Doug.
Well, thank you very much. I've spoken with staff, and I realize through them conversations that there are poor morale. Some of the staff, I can go back, I hired some of them staff years ago, and they're still there. Very few, but they are. And they have a very poor outlook on doing their jobs. And I think it's staff's problem to correct that, given the guidance from this council. If you look at the leadership on council and mainly on staff, they're all new. The heads of departments are all new. And it's up to them to corral that staff. And I guess it's, in some respects, if they don't have the knowledge, maybe it's hard to relate that to the subordinates in their departments. But it is important that we correct that morale problem. Thank you.
Alan?
Could you just repeat the question? Can everyone hear me okay? Yes? Okay. I'm quite loud to begin with, but could you repeat the question, Emma, please?
Yes, so the question is, some current councillors have previously indicated that there is a lack of cohesion and teamwork at the council table. Do you see this as a problem? And if so, how would you, as a councillor, rectify that?
Yes, absolutely it is a problem. It gets in the way of getting things done when there is not a sense of cohesion of a body, of a council. There are going to be debates continuously. That is the purpose of council. Everyone has different positions and different opinions on things, but we have to bring all of that together. We have to find the middle ground, take the best ideas that everyone has, put it together, build a plan, and actually action it. And unfortunately, when there's that sense of lack of cohesion, that fallout then affects staff. It breeds negativity amongst staff, and things don't get done. You know, I think we have really great staff at Norfolk County, but they have to feel supported to make decisions that are within their job description and within their role, and feel supported once they've done so. And I think that leadership really does come from being around the council table, from the members that are at the table.
Brian?
Conflict is good if it's respectful conflict, if it's differences of opinion respectfully shared, and if we're able to look at things objectively. I'm pretty sure that I'm not always going to win every discussion that I have. I'm not always going to make the points I want to make, and I'm not going to get the results that I want to get. That's okay. That's okay. I'm here to express why I think we should do things. I believe the council and staff need to become mission-focused. No more delay, defer, and dither, hoping to create a perfect plan. An imperfect plan at the right time is far better than a perfect plan way too late. And folks, we're darn near at too late right now. The clock's ticking. So let's empower staff and let's come at this from the position of accomplishing something instead of coming up with excuses why we can't accomplish something. Let's get it done.
Christine.
Okay, so I think we're all on the same page and aware that there have been issues in the past council. So we had issues with some people maybe having some ego issues, which sometimes really come to light when you give somebody power that's not quite ready for it. So I think it's really important that whoever is elected as mayor is ready to have that responsibility of that power and not be abusing it and get caught up in their ego. Because I think that that is where a lot of these issues with cohesion among council come around. You have to have strong leadership, and that leadership needs to be able to direct the rest of council as to being they have to be able to direct and be able to be a good representative as to how to handle conflict resolution. And I would use my de-escalation skills that I have obtained over being a human resources professional in order to work with my teammates and get over things as quickly as possible.
So question number 2. Housing. It's hurting the ability for many employers to hire staff and for many to afford putting a roof over their head. What needs to be done to address affordable housing in Norfolk County? We're going to start with Doug.
Okay, well, there are a lot of housing projects that have been completed, and I use example of the Haldeman Norfolk Housing Authority, the Simcoe nonprofit, St. Paul's. I believe the Kinsmen still have one up on Wyndham Street. The problem is, the Haldeman Norfolk, the last I understood, they were $11 million in need of repairs and maintenance over a certain time period. And that can be a problem, so it's going to be very difficult to provide more housing until we clean up what we've got. Thank you.
Alan.
Okay. That's a big question, and I've been out knocking on a lot of doors lately, and that is certainly one that I'm hearing a lot. I don't think there is a simple answer to that, in all honesty. We have some significant infrastructure challenges ahead of us that we need to solve so that we can actually start getting the shovel in the ground and building more houses. I think what that comes back to is having an actual plan, a real plan for how we grow and how we develop and where that goes in our town and in our community. So I am a proponent and want to see a secondary plan for the town of Simcoe. Where are we going to build our communities? What is the infrastructure that's required in order to do that? Where are the parks going? Where are the houses of worship going? Where is the education that surrounds them? We need a real plan for development and growth, and we need to get started on that quickly.
Brian.
In Norfolk County, the math doesn't work. And the math is the only truth we got. No matter which one of us up here says it, 2 + 2 = 4, doesn't it? TTCA is one of our biggest employers, paying $20 an hour to start, and that's a good wage in Norfolk, but you can't afford to live in Norfolk County on $20 an hour if you don't already have a home, period. Annual take-home pay for somebody making $20 an hour is about $36,000 a year, about $3,000 a month, for those of you following along with the math. A one-bedroom apartment, if you can find one to rent, will set you back better than $1,800 per month in Norfolk County. That doesn't leave much for insurance, car payment, gas to get to work, and groceries. So the businesses that pay $20 an hour don't locate here, which means we don't have young families, which means young workers aren't moving here, which means the tax base has to absorb 100% of our increases. Affordable housing is our most important problem to solve because it affects everything else. And I've got some ideas on that. We'll talk about those later. Over to you.
Christine.
Okay, affordable housing is an issue that's currently affecting most towns and cities in Southern Ontario and beyond. I believe that Haldeman Norfolk has a 10-year housing and homelessness plan. I've read the plan and don't think that it's in line with what's evolving and these two counties need, because it's for Haldeman and Norfolk, the plan. Although it has met many of its markers, there's still lots of work to be done. The plan was very heavy on securing affordable housing for singles and seniors, and I think there's a huge gap where we speak about families and the working poor. As Brian up here was saying, I was a human resources person at TTCA, and that was one of the biggest reasons why people didn't continue working with us, was because there was no housing here that they could afford where they could move them or their families to Norfolk and be able to keep that plant running at full force. So absolutely, we need some affordable housing.
Peter.
Yes, well, Christine's she's hit the nail on the head. I mean, the first place you're going to start is with a housing strategy. So there is one in place right now, but it needs to be looked at. And parts of that strategy would contain relooking at the zoning, building code requirements, different types of housing. You know, there isn't a one size fits all. You need to open your mind up a little bit, be flexible, and start to provide different types of housing. Indwell is present here in Norfolk County now. I was on the location committee that helped establish Indwell at Hamilton Hall and eventually over at Norfolk, the old Norfolk Hotel. And they've done a wonderful job in providing needed housing for homeless people and for those in need, marginalized.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So question 3. As more and more businesses move away from the downtown area and the Simcoe Town Center Mall or close down completely, what are your top 3 priorities for attracting more business to downtown Simcoe? We're going to start with Alan.
Okay. Again, also a big question. I think that we can come up, we have some really bright minds around Norfolk County Council and at the staff level. And I think that we need to look at what we have and look at other municipalities that are around us and find what creative and innovative solutions we can bring to Norfolk to solve that problem. So if we look in the downtown core, for instance, it's no surprise to any of you that we have a bunch of empty storefronts. Well, maybe there are some creative and innovative taxation strategies that we can come up with to encourage more business to move into downtown. There are grant opportunities available for facade improvement. Maybe we can increase those and help structure those and move those forward in a different way. I think really it comes down to having a plan. So to ensure our future plan includes growth within the downtown and not sprawling outside of downtown.
Brian.
Regarding the challenges in downtown Simcoe, in my role with the BIA, I have been tackling these challenges for 3+ years. Raise your hand if you want a more vibrant downtown where you feel safe. Me too. That's why we're working for it. That's why the BIA is installing more lighting, restoring the gazebo at Linwood, supporting downtown beautification projects, but we need your help. We're in a bit of a catch-22. Many people won't shop and eat downtown until it feels safer, but it won't feel safer until more people shop and eat downtown. We have to occupy the space if we don't want it to be used for behavior that doesn't benefit the community. That's one reason why you see so many murals in our downtown. It's why the BIA has been more active in downtown event programming, supporting Carnival, running the Fairly Fun Fall Fest 2 years ago, Linwood East Dining Garden, sponsoring the Downtown Friday Night Market, and more. If you want a better community, we all have to be better citizens. Why shop downtown? Well, we have 2 Chinese restaurants, a Jamaican restaurant, 4 Mexican restaurants, 4 coffee shops, a finer diner, an upscale restaurant. We have the lowest vacancy rate in the BIA that we've seen in decades. Other small towns in Ontario would love to have the diversity we have in downtown Simcoe.
Christine.
Okay, so Brian and I are really on the same page with Simcoe's downtown. It takes a community to build a downtown. We have some great projects happening down there right now. And what I feel is really important in the downtown is balancing out that demographic is one of the main issues. Bringing some more businesses downtown that are in line with what the needs of the people are. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. So like Brian was saying, the murals are great. Murals allow people have more respect for their downtown and feel more like they're at home. I was able to have an opportunity where I was invited to an open house of some local community members that had revamped working on the Westbrook building, and they're doing some really great things for downtown that are going to bring in that demographic. So,
Peter.
Yes, all the responses are correct, but it's got to start up a little bit higher than just these individual items being thrown out there. It requires a downtown secondary plan to the main official plan. And I've had experience with that. I'm a founding member of the Ontario Business Improvement Area Association. I've been to downtown's meetings all throughout Ontario, all across Ontario. There's two main things that I found that were to make a successful downtown. One was that they had a downtown secondary plan in place, and two, they had 100% support from all council members. We have never had that here in Norfolk County. Usually everyone around the table will agree, and we have. But the rest of the community needs to be supportive of it as well. There's a benefit to all of Norfolk to revitalize downtown Simcoe.
Doug?
Thank you. My folks owned a grocery store right downtown at one time, and the town was booming. I agree with Peter, we need a secondary plan, but I think we could start by putting some new streetlights on Robinson Street. It's very, very dark there to start off with. I like to look at possibly somehow looking at the tax base between the commercial and residential parts of buildings that are now, I guess, one unit, but I don't know how they're taxed, but I understand there's a lot of absentee landlords, and I think that attributes to the problems down there. Anyways, I have some ideas, but I don't think we can get into that now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Question number 4. If elected, what will be your number 1 priority for Ward 5, and what will you do to achieve that? We'll start with Brian.
Over the last 25 years, we've had growth of less than 0.75% on average, lower than neighboring municipalities. We have our, fun fact, Haldeman County, Brant County, Oxford County, and Elgin County all pay their staff more than we pay ours. So it's really hard to keep your turnover down when the first thing the employees do when they come into work is open Indeed and see what the options look like in Cayuga. You know, we have cut budgets to the point where departments are not just dysfunctional, they're not functional. We have a bylaw department that can't enforce the bylaws that we already have on the books to solve problems like garbage. We had to take on lighting at the BIA level because there's no funds for it at the county level. The secondary plan for downtown Simcoe was announced years ago. We're still waiting. Let's stop waiting, folks. Let's become mission focused.
Christine?
Okay, so my number 1 priority is to get the county's finances figured out. I think that's the number 1 thing we need to do. We can talk about all the bells and whistles that we want. We can talk about a new sport hub. We can talk about arenas, pools, parks. We can talk about all of that. That's the icing on the cake. Years ago, my husband and I renovated a house. We had all kinds of beautiful plans, found out that the foundation was gone. So do you know what went? My new kitchen. All of those frills, I didn't have room in my budget for. That's where we're at with Norfolk County right now. We're dealing with a foundation that needs to be fixed. We have an infrastructure that's crumbling. Those are the things. We have a county staff that needs to be completely revamped. We need to be thinking about succession planning. We need to be thinking about budgetary concerns. As Brian said, you know, there is a huge wage discrepancy between, say, Haldeman and Norfolk, and that's what I would want to work on.
Peter?
Number 1 priority, turn the chaos around. First thing I would do would ask the CAO for a status report so we know exactly where we're at. And secondly, I would want a status report on human resources to know where we're at with our human resources, our employees. And we would need to get council working together as a team. And how do you do that? Some orientation sessions provided by the clerk. I've voiced my concern with her already. I believe that she will be providing some orientation sessions and specifically on procedures, policies, rules, regulations, governing the procedures of council and the mayor. And if we can get off on the same foot, then we can start dealing with all of the problems that each one of us has enunciated here tonight.
Doug?
Thank you. Well, I hear it all the time, taxes, of course, but that relates right back to our finances. We got to get staff and council back on the same track. That shouldn't be difficult. It shouldn't cost us any money, I hope, either. But the big issue is going to be water. And for you people sitting in this room, if you're urban, that's a $250 million bill that's going right on the water and sewer bill. So keep that in mind. Is that a priority? It is a priority versus a lot of other things. Our infrastructure is over $1 billion, and we have 260 bridges. Things are going to have to wait, I think. The water and sewer are probably, to me, the most important, but it's tax dollars. Thank you.
Alan?
Okay, so I think the question was, if elected, what's your number one priority for Ward 5? Mine is to see the beginning of a secondary plan for Simcoe. We need a plan for where we go and how we get there. Right now, we are building subdivisions with one way in and one way out. That is incredibly dangerous from an emergency management perspective. We are building subdivisions in school catchment zones where the school can't handle the influx of kids, and the school board doesn't know what to do with it. We need a real plan where we all work together, we bring together people's ideas, and have some creative solutions about how we build our community for the future. We need to think long term, and we need to get started on that. We can't wait. We need to move. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Question number 5. 2022 was proclaimed the Year of the Garden by Norfolk County, and yet no flowers were planted in the large garden at Wellington Park, and weeds were allowed to grow in their place. Weeds are also an issue in other parts of the town. Do you believe in lead by example? We're going to start with Christine.
I'm not quite sure I understand the question. Like, I understand that flowers weren't planted in the parks. I don't know if that was a budgetary concern or whatnot. I wasn't aware that there weren't any flowers planted. So I'm not really sure where to go with this question. I don't really know. I don't really have an opinion on it. I think that the beautification of our parks and whatnot is important, and I'm not sure why it wasn't done, if it's typically done other years. But I'm just going to leave it at that because I'm rambling at the moment. And yeah, I'm not sure I understood the question properly. Sorry.
Peter?
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I should have started with me on this one. It is a problem. In the last 20 years since amalgamation, the level of service in Simcoe has declined. Many services have disappeared. Our parks, recreation facilities have deteriorated. The waterways, you've got weeds all along the banks. The best thing, I guess, we've got going for us is the downtown Simcoe BIA with Brian's help. They do provide those flowers. A lot of people think that it's the general taxpayer that pays for those flowers. It's not. It's the businesses in the downtown that pay for those. And we do have the Horticultural Society as well that volunteers and does a lot of the flowers in Wellington Park and other areas. But yes, it would be nice if we could have a lot more flowers and less weeds.
Doug?
Thank you. I looked after the parks for years, and I'm appalled at the condition of them. There is no grass. The geese have taken over. It looks very nice along Kent Street where they put all the armor stone, I guess. But look by the high school. I've had many requests to clean that mess up along the trail. I think I'd like to see possibly some form of cooperation with the service club, and maybe we can fix the riverbanks up to get them back to where they used to be. But again, there could be money involved, but I think it's got to be a priority. It's a mess. And there are ways to get rid of the geese without shooting them, okay? Thank you.
Alan?
Well, considering I started my remarks talking about parks, I think this was written for me, but we really used to be known for having beautiful parks. It made the cover of magazines and periodicals because we had really beautiful parks, and we've let them go. I want to just tell you a really quick story. I have 3 young kids. We picked up, drive-through, not gonna lie, and ate in the Wellington Park, I call it the duck park, at the picnic tables. My kids went to go play on the playground equipment. The playground equipment, as you know there, is not much. It is a set of monkey bars and a slide, and we can't maintain it because at the top of the slide, the metal is exposed and is rusty and sharp and dangerous, and the top of that slide is covered in plywood. We need to do better. When you drive into Simcoe, the first thing you see is Wellington Park, and it used to be beautiful with the fountain, and now we've taken out the fountain, we've replaced it with flags, the weeds are overgrown, the grass isn't cut, and the park looks crappy. We need to do better. We need to put our best foot forward and involve community groups and do better.
Brian.
We are in the middle of a demographic perfect storm. We have an aging population, which has put pressure on our tax base. We've seen heroic measures taken to prevent tax increases. Well, if we don't pay for it, we can't afford it, so we don't do it, which means that we don't have the staff to handle landscaping. And service clubs, people are aging out of service clubs. I was a member of the Rotary Club of Simcoe, and at 55, I was the 3rd youngest member. So we don't have volunteers. And if we really want to see the weeds gone on the Lynn River, then we need to raise our hands and do it ourselves. If we're not willing to pay for it, we have to step up, and we have to actually want to do it ourselves. So that's where we're at. To paraphrase Margaret Thatcher, trimming departments is all well and good, but eventually you run out of budget to cut. And that's where we're at. So, and this is what it looks like when you don't have the budget.
Thank you, everyone. Question number 6, what role do you think Norfolk County Council has in supporting local business owners? I'm going to start with Peter.
What role does Norfolk County have? Well, I think I've probably said that already. And that would be to establish a downtown secondary plan. That is the answer to resurrecting our downtown. And having a 100% supportive council backing that. That is the answer. That's where you start, and that's where all the details will unfold. And I'll give you an example. Just at my own corner of Talbot and Robinson Street, you used to have 4 derelict buildings there, and probably assessed at maybe a total of $100,000. Don't quote me on that. But how many taxes are we getting out of that, and what kind of business? Like no business and hardly any taxes. Now, take a look at that corner. It has been revitalized, and it's worth in the millions of dollars in tax assessment, and that same thing could happen all across the whole downtown with a downtown secondary plan.
Doug.
Could you repeat that question, please?
Absolutely. What role do you think Norfolk County Council has in supporting local business owners?
Well, I've looked at I was one of the originators with the BIA, and I'm talking years ago, but I have some ideas on that, but they have another session coming up, and I want to talk to them about it. The secondary plan is a great idea, but as I said earlier, we got to take a look at the commercial residential portion of downtown buildings. Perhaps there's some way we can change that to clean up the residential part and give some form of relief to the commercial part. It's a big, big problem, but again, it may take money, it may take, the BIA is a big problem in a way, because I know people that are paying a horrendous, I call it a tax, over and above their regular tax for their buildings. So it's got to be looked at very seriously, and I think it's council's role to do that. Thank you.
Alan.
Supporting local business owners is absolutely paramount for Norfolk County and for Norfolk County Council. I like all of the talk about the secondary plan. I would say the exact same thing, but I think we need to work very closely with the Chamber of Commerce and the BIA in Simcoe, but also all across Norfolk County and all of the chambers in terms of what changes can we make that support our business community. We need to hear them. We need to be on the street. We need to be talking to people. We need to encourage deputations. We need to have a conversation about what it is that you need as a business owner and how we can help you. We need to be there almost like a partner every step of the way, because economic development is the trajectory for growth for Norfolk County.
Brian.
Lead, follow, or get out of the way. That's how we've had to deal with things at the BIA for the last 3.5 years. Because again, we don't have the budget at the county level to solve the problems that we have. A secondary plan is a worthless waste of time without the budget to put it into action. We opted out of the parking pilot project because a parking pilot project has no value without the enforcement to go along with it. We can't get bylaw to enforce parking in downtown Simcoe. They don't have the manpower. We have cut departments to the point where there's no longer any point in actually having a department. We have ECDev, the Economic Development Department, that can't dev any EC because they don't have the money to do it. That's where we're at, folks. Until we solve that problem, all the paperwork in the world won't matter. So if you can't support business, get out of the way of it.
Christine.
Okay, so how does council support local businesses and what their role is in it? I believe the council has to support downtown businesses. In what way that is, I don't really know. I don't know if it has to do with taxes. I don't know if it has to do with, we always throw around red tape. I don't know what the solution to it is, but I think that it's paramount that council be involved and the county be involved with making sure the downtown is what it needs to be and that businesses can be open and flourish and be here to serve the community. And that's all I've got to say about that.
Thank you, everyone. Question number 7, the current acting MOH has been criticized by some people for social media posts about the ineffectiveness of lockdowns and masks. Do you feel that this has hurt Norfolk County's reputation and the public opinion of the role of the Board of Health and the MOH? If so, how would you work to rectify it? We'll start with Doug.
Difficult question. I was on the health board for 4 years, and we went through one MOH, but we had an acting MOH from Brand. Worked great for the little bit they did, but when COVID hit, it became a real problem. No two ways about it. But I think that the farmers were hit the hardest with some of their impacts, and I think we got to work to change that, especially if this pandemic comes back. I have farmers around me that work my land, and I can tell you that they've spent a lot of money on bunkhouses, transportation costs, you name it. But it's a difficult one because the province have a lot of say in how that operates. Okay, thank you.
Alan.
I know what I don't know, and I don't know much about health. It's not my foray. And as a counselor, you sit on the Board of Health, and quite honestly, I'm not sure why. I think we need to listen to the experts. I think that locally we have a depth and breadth of expertise in our medical community that we should be bringing together in advisory capacity to advise us on those issues and work together with the medical officer of health to come up with a strategy that makes sense. I think it's probably too soon to tell to the original question, but I'm not a health expert, and I have no business sitting around a table making decisions on what you do related to your health.
Brian.
Somebody in the public health field once said to me back at the beginning of this mess that you can tell how well your public health crisis response is working by the number of people who tell you it's an overreaction. I'm all for freedom of speech. Everyone has the right to express their opinion. However, if you are working for an organization, you really can't tell somebody to go to hell. And that's the thing. We have to be careful about what we say. we have to be careful about our messaging. That's part of the job, is to represent the organization that you're with and manage public expectations. If we've got a minister, if we've got an MOH who is in disagreement with current policy at the provincial and federal levels, then we're going to have to find a way to manage that message, because we want the best for all of our citizens here in Norfolk County.
Christine.
Okay, so as someone with a health care background, I've got experience in long-term care, retirement care, and the dental field. I believe that the mixed messaging that we're getting from the current MOH is not helpful to anyone. The pandemic has been, difficult on everyone in different ways, and the way that you are affected by the pandemic steers how you think about the pandemic. My family was really affected in a negative way by COVID. So I have one idea as to, what COVID restrictions should be. But if your family hasn't been affected in any negative way, then you're going to have a completely different point of view. So I think it's really important when you have an MOH that they need to be following the provincial guidelines, the federal guidelines, and they need to be putting those to the people. And they should absolutely not be then on personal social media or whatnot, having a conflict there. It should be straightforward.
Peter.
Well, I certainly would agree with that. And further, I would say that, I'm not really, I don't think I'm going to pass judgment on what our health people did. And with lockdowns, I think their number one priority was to protect our health in our community and in our country and the whole world. It was a situation where no one knew exactly what to do, and they did the best they could, and their priority was to protect us from this nasty virus. And it's still going on. The effects are here. I think they did a good job. It wasn't nice, and it still isn't nice.
Thank you. So at this time, I would like to introduce Sue Downs. She's the president of the Simcoe and District Chamber of Commerce. She'll be taking over from here.
Okay, thank you, Emma. Okay, so now we're going to start off with a debate question. The debate questions, the candidates have 2 minutes to respond to that. We'll go in, keep in the same order that we're in right now. So what'll happen is I'll ask the question. The first candidate has 2 minutes to respond. Then we go through all of the candites. After that, if you want to have a rebuttal, then you just put your hand up and then I'll go to you. You've got 45 seconds for the rebuttal. You can then add 2 comments. Unless somebody directs a question at you, then you are able to then have to comment more. So if you have any questions on that as we get going, please let me know. The first debate, we're going to do 2 debate questions, and the first one is, what is more important to you, Norfolk County as a whole or Ward 5? Explain. So the first candidate is Alan.
Can you just repeat the questions so I have it correctly, please?
Sure. What is more important to you, Norfolk County as a whole or Ward 5? Explain.
Wow. This seems dangerous. I love living here. I absolutely love living in Norfolk County. I have grown up here. I was raised here. I'm raising my kids here. I have had wonderful opportunities because of the fact that I've grown up here and I get to live and work here every single day. So this community is important to me. But I live in Simcoe and I work in Simcoe and I'm raising my kids in Simcoe. I don't know that I could pick, but I would tell you that it's important that we work cohesively for the betterment of our community. A rising tide floats all boats. We have to bring our community together. We need to support every area of our community. You can't have one section, one part of our community getting more than the other. We have to work together, but we have to understand that each individual community in Norfolk has a unique set of values and needs, and how can we try and support everybody? And again, collectively, we get better when we do that. So it's probably a non-answer to the direct question. I just love this place, and I am thrilled and proud of what we have here.
Okay, and Brian.
What is good for Norfolk is good for Ward 5. Without development of all the other wards, we don't get the economic impact in Ward 5 that we should. What's good for Ward 5 is good for Norfolk. Because if we have a thriving, vital county hub and a thriving, vital downtown, that drives economic impact in a positive direction. I think we're going to find that there are lots of decisions that are going to require discussion at the council table, and we're not always going to all agree. However, if we all stay mission focused and we all stay solution focused and realize that what's good for one ward has an impact on others, and maybe if the councilors in those wards can explain the impact on Ward 5, and if those councilors in Ward 5, like myself, can explain the impact to the other councilors, we might actually get things moving forward. We all have to work together because we are all in the same boat. And a rising tide floats all boats, but if we're not willing to bail, we're going to sink. That's all I got to say about that. Over to you, Christine, with weather.
Okay, and Christine.
So, yes, if elected to council, I will be very invested in learning as much as I can about the other wards. Because I've been stationed in Simcoe for 13 years and living here for quite some time, I am pretty Simcoe-centric. I do get out around the community and whatnot, but you have to have an understanding as to what the needs are in the other communities that are surrounding us. Every little small town, every hamlet, every village in Norfolk has needs, and your job as a councillor is to still be seeing to those needs in the way that you are voting overall. So in saying all of that, though, I do understand that if voted in on election day, that I do have a responsibility to Ward 5, and I need to be putting my focus there and having, the needs of the other wards in my periphery. So thank you.
Okay, great. And Peter.
Yes, I recall way back with the formation of Norfolk County, Milt Farrell was the transition chairperson from the province, and I spoke to him with my concerns about restructuring at that time. I knew that if we restructured according to what they were suggesting, that Simcoe would be a loser, and we have been in terms of many of the services in Simcoe have disappeared. But having said that, once it was put in place, and once everyone is elected, they are Norfolk County councilors representing the corporation of Norfolk County and not each community, although they should be bringing local issues to the table so all the rest of the council can understand what's going on in each community. The unfortunate nature of the structure of Norfolk County, it lends itself to parochialism, and with limited dollars, each area is always fighting, even though maybe the councillor might not say they're fighting for those dollars. Believe me, they're all fighting for those scarce, scant dollars to support our area. So it's a real conundrum, this structure. I don't know, maybe it took 20 some odd years to restructure the region. Now we're over 22 years with the new Norfolk County structure. Maybe it's time to look at a new structure.
Okay, and Doug.
Thank you. Well, I was born and raised in this town, and I'm certainly plugging for Ward 5. And Ward 5, in my opinion, has lost a lot. It's gone downhill. And there are reasons for that. But I can tell you one of the biggest. The town of Simcoe Ward 5 was built with the Local Improvement Act, and many of you probably don't even know what that is, but many of the areas in Simcoe were built under the Local Improvement Act. And I can't get into those details right now, I'd have to explain it, but now they do everything under the Municipal Act. Everybody has to be equal. If we're gonna plow the snow downtown in Simcoe, they gotta do it everywhere, and that's a minor issue. But when you develop in a town, such as Waterford, Dover, or whatever, it's all done under the Municipal Act, and we're paying. We have lost all our reserves in Ward 5. They've gone all over but Simcoe. And I'm a team player, and I have worked in harmony with my fellow councilors previously, and I intend to do that. But I will be plugging for Ward 5. Thank you.
Okay, so would anybody like to add any comments or? Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'd like to add a few things, and unfortunately, everything boils down to money. It does boil down to money. But the biggest thing you got to realize with Simcoe and the rest of the county now is the size of our infrastructure. And I'm going to read a couple of things to you. Recently, you saw the bridge on the Queensway rebuilt, and you got a bridge in Long Point being rebuilt on the Causeway. Those two bridges alone are going to add up to possibly $10 million. We have 260 bridges in Norfolk County by definition from the province. Think about it. Where's the money coming from for all these things? And that's just one issue. 5 water treatment plants, 5 wastewater plants, it's all money.
Great. Okay. Any other comments? Peter?
No, I know, just to keep it rolling, I guess, but I totally agree with Doug on that. You know, the infrastructure that we have here in Norfolk County definitely can easily bury us. You know, we have 5 water treatment plants, 5 sewage treatment plants. Simcoe, which is worth something like $60 million, and the rest of them are in the $15 to $20 million range. So it is very difficult, and you've got a population of 65,000 people over an area of 1,600 square kilometers. So it's very difficult to serve such a large geographic area.
Okay, and Doug?
Just a closing comment. We have to work with the other councilors. We have no money left in Ward 5. It's all gone. But anyways, it's very important to work with your fellow councilors, and I had a good rapport with them in my last term on council. Thank you.
Okay, that's it? Done? Oh, one more time.
Yeah,
There you go.
I would agree
one more
with-
time, Peter.
I,
Yep.
I would agree with Doug, but he always makes me pay for the coffee.
Okay, so the next debate question is, county officials have stated property taxes could rise by more than 9% in 2023. This will be hard on many households with rising costs of food, water rates, and much more. What do you feel the county can do to minimize the proposed tax hike? And we will start with Brian.
You can't suck and blow at the same time. We can't have all the nice stuff and still have low taxes, so we're going to have to choose. Boy, we're just full of good news up here tonight, aren't we? However, there are other options. We can enter into private-public partnerships. The BIA has been effective at applying for grants to do things that the county can't afford to do, so that we don't put pressure on increasing the levy on downtown business owners. We need to look for creative solutions and let's be solution focused. Let's find the way to find the yes instead of hiding behind the easy no. No hasn't gotten us very far so far. Speaking of infrastructure, from 2012 to 2015, according to the Port Dover Maple Leaf, the Bailey Bridge on County Road 45 had been budgeted to be replaced. That was 2012 to 2015. I believe the 2 gentlemen who were talking earlier were on the council at that time. It didn't get built. What happened to the budget? Where'd that money go? But it was budgeted. How can you budget if you don't have the money? Maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe we need to stop kicking the can down the road and start being decisive. Look at what happened with Meisner's Dam. How expensive did that get because we didn't solve the problem when it was cheap? Municipal decisions never get cheaper the longer they're put off. And every municipal investment, if we do it right, will benefit everyone in the municipality. And nothing gets done right the longer it sits. Everything gets worse. Let's stop sitting on stuff. Let's start getting things done.
Okay, Christine?
So 9% increase in property taxes is massive, especially for people that are on a fixed income. If you're a senior citizen, if you're on some sort of social services program or something, it's a massive amount. And nobody likes when property taxes rise. Inflation at the moment is out of control, and the county is not immune to these increases. Every time the county fills up a county truck, they're paying an increased tax or gas rate. Absolutely everything has gone up. Building supplies have increased. We still want to be doing these things in the community, obviously, but if we don't raise property taxes, we can't do these things. We speak a lot about what we would like the county to do for us, but I believe at the time, without an increase to the property taxes, the answer is sadly nothing. The county, without raising property taxes, won't even be able to sustain itself without more debt. Property taxes should be rising on an annual basis at the rate of inflation, and I don't think that's been happening consistently for many years. So that's why we're here now at a 9% increase in order to play some catch up. Do I agree with it? Do I want it? No, I don't want my property taxes to go up. And I'm sure my husband doesn't either. It's just common sense that they have to go up, and it needs to be done consistently, and then we can get back on a proper schedule without having a huge hike. So I don't really think that there's any way that we can't make the increase that's already in the works from what I was hearing at the mayoral debate last night. So, thank you.
Okay, and we'll go through the other candidates, and then if you've got a comment, Brian, we'll go to you. Okay, so over to Peter right now.
Yeah, when I was first elected, I was really upset with taxation on my commercial property in downtown Simcoe. That's what really motivated me first. Of course, I've changed a little bit since then, but I promoted 0%, and we got it. And how did we do it? Actually, Doug was the Public Works Director at the time, and he was part of that solution, taking on some other duties from parks, and we looked at doing things more efficiently, effectively, economically. We looked at duplication of services. We looked at lobbying, increasing the revenues from the province, the federal government, increasing user fees. The county is split up into about one-third of the revenues. One-third to the province, federal government, one-third user, one-third tax base, roughly speaking. At least that's what it used to be. We could also look at cutting services, but I think that that's been done quite a bit with this last council, so I'm not so sure I'd be inclined to look at that. Reviewing services. I actually sat on the Energy Conservation Committee, and we had contests from one building to another, the employees, at reducing the energy footprint, and they did. They competed with each other, and they actually reduced the energy output of those buildings. So, yeah, it can be done, but it's not an easy job. And of course, the cost of living always goes up. So you're kind of stuck with some of these costs, and especially now.
Thank you. And Doug.
Is this a debate question, or is it a?
Yes, it's a debate question, so we go through,
I'm sorry, I've lost. Could you read the question again? I'm last, so I want to know what I'm talking about.
Sure, yep, okay, so just so I'll go ahead and say that it's a debate question, so you'll give your answer once I reread the question, and then Alan will go, and then everybody can put up their hand and debate on that twice, unless somebody actually directs a question towards another candidate. So the question again is, county officials have stated property taxes could rise by more than 9% in 2023. This will be hard on many households with the rising costs of food, water rates, and more. What do you feel the county can do to minimize the proposed tax hike?
Okay, I wouldn't get too excited about the 9.5% yet, or 9.9. That's preliminary, and there'll be 3 budgets: operating, capital, and the rate budget, which is your water and sewer. And the new council will have a chance to take a kick at all those. But I want to read you a couple facts here. In 2018, there was an 84 million tax levy. In 2021, it's up to 107 million. That's an increase of 26% in your tax bill in 3 years. And that's not counting the water and sewer bill. Tax arrears are climbing back up again. In 2021, tax arrears were 10.6 million. So everything comes down to money. And yeah, we can raise your taxes, or the council can raise your taxes, but I hear it all the time. People do not want to pay more taxes. I know what mine went up, but I think this new council realized they had to do something, but we're getting killed with infrastructure. We're getting killed with it. And our water and sewer is not going to get cheaper. Thank you.
Okay, and Alan.
Okay, well, 9% is a no-go for me. We'll just start there. Unfortunately, we are in a situation now where we are playing catch-up for artificially low taxes for too long following amalgamation. And now we have a situation where we need to inject large sums of cash to fix our aging infrastructure, facilities, etc. We haven't been planning for replacing those infrastructure elements, those buildings, etc. at the end of their lifespan. We need to get on track with that. Taxes are always a tricky question to answer, and each year is going to be different. But here's what I know. You can't do the same thing year over year with the same dollars. It just doesn't work. Everything goes up. The cost of goods goes up, the cost of services goes up, and the cost of service delivery goes up. So therefore, we need to look at either, we've got these options. We increase taxes, we increase the tax base, or we cut services. So here's the thing. I think that we need to look long and hard at the services that we offer, ask ourselves why we're doing it this way, before we have any right to come and ask you for more of your money. So let's review what we're doing, let's review why we're doing it that way, and make sure that we're doing it to the best of our ability. Let's look to see if there are innovative solutions that we can use through technology, other ideas across other municipalities in this province. How can we bring those best practices and those ideas to our Norfolk before we come and ask you for more money? That's what I would do in my business, and I think that's what we need to do as a municipality as well.
Great, thank you. Okay, and then Brian, you had to put your hand up?
Yeah. Conversation I had with Matt LeBlanc a number of years ago when I worked at the radio station was about this very topic and about the importance of context, because often tax increases can become a political tool. It's really easy to scare you into voting for somebody who says, I'm going to keep your taxes low, by throwing out numbers that don't have any context with them. I'm a taxation pragmatist, okay? It costs what it costs to have what we want and what we need. Out canvassing, I've been asking voters, do you want smaller tax cuts and even less services, or do you want better value for your tax dollars? The majority tell me they want better value. So let's make that happen. On a $3,800 tax bill, putting it in context, a 9% increase is $342 a year, 94 cents a day. No one's going to lose their house over 94 cents a day. And if you are, you've already lost your
does
house.
anybody else have any other comment? Peter, over to you.
Well, I've been hearing at the table here probably yesterday about how bad a job the former council did. And some of the things that have been said, I thought, gee whiz, I thought I was on that council. I don't really remember some of these things, but when we left, there was only one reserve that was in the red, to my recollection, and that was the road reserve budget. And as you go out, it gets bigger and bigger, and it's all in the red, but there's no accounting for the revenues that we eventually get from the province and the federal government. So those aren't accounted for. It's not a complete picture, and
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you, Peter. Over to you, Doug.
Well, nobody wants to pay more taxes, but We have to pay some. But the interesting part is that people want the bridge on 45. Somebody mentioned that here. They wanted the bridge fixed on 45. Well, maybe it's not being fixed because it's not really a priority in the bridge program. So we let it sit. And I remember discussing that when I was on council. But you have to set your priorities based on need, not what somebody wants because he can't drive his tractor across it. Maybe he can go around. Thank you.
Okay, and Peter?
Well, just wanted to carry on with, I also heard talk about the legacy fund. And the former council, this is one way to address some of the road reserves being in the red. And it was determined that the sale of Simcoe Hydro would make more money if they invested that I think it's $77 million now. They've invested it and spread it out over 20 years, where they are looking at getting somewhat around $2 million. That $2 million, most of it would go towards the road reserve budget to reduce the taxes.
Okay. Alan?
I would just add one thing, and I think that that is the growth and development is our ticket out of this so that we can stop taxing you to death. We need to have a plan that we can bring more people here. We need to be able to build more homes. As we build more homes, again, that's increasing the tax base. More people are paying taxes. They're working locally, spending locally. That helps us all get better.
Doug?
Just one thing on plans. In all respect to the people sitting here, all the departments have plans, a road plan, a water and sewer plan for the next umpteen years. But the problem is, it's all dollars and cents. So what do? Do you raise the taxes or do you cut some of the things out? Pretty simple. Thank you.
That's it. Alrighty then. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the regular part of the question. So you have a minute to respond. And the next question is, what are the most important challenges facing Norfolk County? And we're going to start with Christine.
Okay, so some of the most important challenges that we have facing Norfolk County is, for one, our failing infrastructure. I know that Alan had mentioned earlier about growth, building more houses, and that kind of thing, but we don't have the water, we don't have the wastewater that we're able to do that. We don't have any industrial land left at the moment, so we can't be growing that way either. So, you know, that's a massive challenge for us. So we need to get our water and wastewater figured out so that we can come up with a plan where we can grow. And saying all of that, though, we're in a rural area that has beautiful farmland. So where are we building? Are we taking up the farmland? Like, what is our future looking like? We really need to have a really cohesive, great plan and look into how we actually want to grow and what our limitations are. Thank you.
Okay, over to you, Peter.
Climate change, infrastructure, housing, and homeless. That's it.
Okay.
You asked for 3, didn't you? There they are.
No, not yet, but that's okay. We just said, what are the most important challenges facing Norfolk County? But that's okay that you gave 3.
Well, there's 3 right there
Okay.
for you.
Yep, it was your minute, so you could go for it. Okay, Doug Brunton.
Well, as I said earlier, I think staff morale and council have to learn to work together a little better. We have $1 billion in infrastructure, over $1 billion, and we have, I think in 2021, $18 million in reserves. So it doesn't go very far. So I'd say we got to increase our reserves, and we should try to reduce the taxes, but that's going to be difficult. Thank you.
Okay, and Alan?
Okay. Without a question, infrastructure is one of the biggest. That is our water situation and wastewater situation. That is our aging buildings and facilities, the community halls, the rec centers, etc., and everything that's underground that helps to power and bring our communities together. Next item for me would be our finances. Certainly we need to ensure that we can afford to fix these things. And where does that money come from and how do we spend it wisely? Economic development needs to be a part of that strategy in terms of how we move forward. And I also think we need to really address the vacuum of leadership that we see currently at council and at the county level.
Okay, and Brian.
Growth. Affordable housing is the key to our success. Infrastructure is important, but infrastructure takes years and huge amounts of money, so we need to grow our tax base to be able to afford to do that. The challenge is that without being able to improve our water supply, we can't really add a whole bunch of affordable housing real quick, or can we? Let's take a look at infill. Let's take a look at building. I've got a backyard bachelor's program where we can put together 20 by 20 prefab homes installed in backyards of people who are interested. This would be a subsidized program. The rent would be split between the homeowner and the county to pay for it, and we can probably drop 60 to 80 of those a year in people's backyards. Those seniors who are worried about losing their homes, this is one way to help them out, and maybe they might pick up somebody along the way who helps shovel their driveway. We might actually be able to build a better sense of community.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so the next question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you believe that Norfolk County residents would rate the current council? What is your number one skill to improve that score? And we're going to start with Peter.
Thanks. Rating this current council? Well, I don't know if I really want to give them a number or not. I've already said what I thought about them. It's a bit chaotic. It's definitely less than 10 and a little bit more than 1, but I've already said it before. This council is too inexperienced, and it's not their fault that they're inexperienced, so you need more experience on council. And of course, you always need a turnover, a mixture of young people and people with experience. You know, the young have the new ideas. Just to start things off, we need to get off on the right foot, you know, with a good orientation session, a status report, you know, and all pulling in the same direction.
Okay, great. And just a reminder, it's that scale 1 to 10, and then your number one skill to improve that score. So we'll go to Doug next then.
Well, mine's experience.
Well, I certainly won't give them a 10, and I'd much rather rate everybody by award. I have my own opinion on this ward. Some of the wards have been very active and involved, but it boils down to me, staff and council are all new. Your head of departments are fairly new. I don't think they have the experience. So what kind of a rating would I give this council? I don't know, maybe 6 or a 7. It's a tough job. It's a tough job.
Okay, good, thank you. And Alan.
I think Doug's right in that it is a very tough job and it's a difficult position to be in. Based on the doors that I've knocked and the comments that I've heard from people, the rating would be quite low. I'm not going to give you a number, but I think it's quite low. My skill to increase that number is I have years of experience in leadership roles, in bringing people together and building consensus. I do that with my job at the radio station, but also, again, I've been with the fair for 20 years. There are more than 1,000 volunteers at Norfolk County Fair that bring that event together each and every year. I served as president there and managed to do that quite well. Also, the chamber, we work with 200 and something businesses locally. And again, that takes consensus building. The challenge with weak leadership is it sends mixed signals in messaging that comes from council, and the message that it sends to staff then creates a culture of complacency and apathy amongst the team, and that's not acceptable. We deserve better.
Okay, great. And over to Brian.
I'm not going to rate a council that's currently doing the job. I don't take cheap shots. chirping from the sidelines has never improved the outcome of the game. I will be happy to evaluate their results at the end of their term. Besides, we're all sitting here talking about cohesion and cooperation and respect, and two of us at this table, well, somebody else and me, are going to be working with those counselors. Let's start treating them with respect right here and right now. The only rating they need is the one you're willing to give them, because you're going to be voting for one of us. And that's the only rating that matters, is what you do in the voting booth.
Okay, and Christine.
Okay, so I'm on board with Brian here. I don't think it would be fair to give a scaled rating to the current counselors. There are so many challenges between 2018 when they took their seats in council to now. Like, what did we go through? We went through a global pandemic. And I think that I'd be really remiss to be judging people on how they handled that. It's something that none of us in our lifetimes, I don't think, has gone through before. So I'm going to leave it at that. I think that they did the best that they could with what they had and the situations that they were put in over the last 4 years. What I feel like one of my great strengths that I can bring to council is that I'm able to look at county issues through a multifaceted lens. So I have a lot of life history, I have a lot of professional history, and I really think that council needs that to be a voice at the table. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, the next question is, are there issues that current council, Norfolk County Council, either voted in favor for or against that you would have voted differently? And if so, indicate that one issue and why you would have voted differently. And we'll start with Doug.
I can't, I can't say I've followed it that close to say would I have voted differently. I think on some of the tax raises in the past years, based on what I found out in our 26% increase in 3 years, there had to be other ways to chop things down, I would hope. You have to dig in the weeds, as we used to call it, when you're going on the budget. You have to look very close in the fine details. And there's a lot of things in there that are bulked together, and if you look hard enough and ask for a breakdown, there are things you can remove. Thank you.
Okay, and Alan.
A big one for me would have been closing the Simcoe Rec Center and taking the ice surface out of it. Without question, we had to find a solution for the seniors and for the Simcoe Senior Center. That building was just not up to standard, and I am appalled that we let people be in there for as long as we did. So we needed to find a solution. However, I think that we had more public consultation. We had asked you, we had asked community groups for ideas and suggestions and asked the seniors for their input. We could have come up with a solution that might have solved that without losing an ice surface in Simcoe. And I think that has had detrimental impact all across Norfolk County in regards to recreation, not just for kids, by the way, that is for all age groups.
Okay, great. And Brian.
In February of this year, County Council made the decision to provide $10,000 to the Downtown Simcoe Homeless Solutions Roundtable. And we thanked you very much for that money, and I still thank you for that money. Thank you. I would have voted for 15. Because you can't solve a problem if you can't solve a problem. And what we did last year, we're going to have to do again this year. And it's not going to get cheaper the longer we put it off.
Okay, great. Christine.
So I think that council voted down paid parking in Simcoe. And I think that instead, and I might be wrong, but this is what I'm remembering from like many council viewings that I've done over the past 6 months or so, is that it was decided that we would do this 2-hour parking downtown instead. And I don't think that the 2-hour parking is necessarily meeting the needs of the business owners either, or the people that are actually living downtown above those businesses. And I think it would be really great if we would be able to have some sort of parking pass system or something for business owners and residents that live above those businesses, that maybe they don't get dinged by bylaw. It's not that I think that we have bylaw really out there on the hunt all the time looking for cars parked, but from going out canvassing, that is one of the things that I've heard from community members, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, great. And Peter?
I should have said before that the evaluation of this council will come on the 24th, election day. One issue that I would have definitely voted against was the decimation of staff, in particular the planning department. I know at one point, I don't know if they had any planners in the planning department. Without planners, you can't bring people to Norfolk County. You can't do planning. You know, it led to a reduction in services. That's why you've seen the parks not being taken care of, and it just led to a lot of chaos. So that was the main issue for me. It's the staffing issue. You know, we don't have enough staff to serve the people of Norfolk County, and that's what Norfolk County is all about, service.
Okay, great. What do you see as a solution for Norfolk's recreation facility needs? This was an issue in the last election as well. So we'll start with Alan.
Okay, we need a new ice surface in Simcoe. There. We desperately need another ice surface in Simcoe. Losing the rec center has had significant impact for recreation, like I said, all across Norfolk County. Conventional wisdom now when it comes to building rec facilities, it usually includes a walking track and some multi-purpose. I'm not going to go so far as to say we need to work on that three-letter word, but Simcoe itself needs a new ice surface. Talbot Gardens is in awful shape, and we can't keep putting Band-Aids on it. We need to deal with that issue because recreation and access to recreation is what builds community. It's what brings people to our town, those young families. Again, it allows us to have a space where seniors can age in place because they can be a part of something and can be active, etc. We need to consider that and do it.
Okay, and Brian.
I think we have to look at private-public partnerships to make this happen, because, you know, again, nobody wants to spend the money. So then let's reach out to our community. Let's reach out to the service clubs. Let's reach out to the businesses in our community. We've got some pretty hefty multinationals present. We should reach out to we should do some fundraising. I mean, that's the point we're at, folks. We're scraping the bottom of the barrel. We can talk about all the wonderful plans about rec centers. We can talk about hubs, but we didn't want to build one. We're protecting the legacy fund because we don't have any money. But maybe if we spent the legacy fund on building a hub, we could attract the growth we need to increase our tax base, so we wouldn't have to worry about having money on a regular basis. But we didn't do that. We don't make bold moves.
Okay, and Christine.
Okay, so I understand that our infrastructure with the area's pools, arenas, skate parks, etc., they need some major work. The skate park's gone, and I guess we're waiting for a good place to put it, which will cost money because there'll need to be asphalt involved, like lighting, making sure it's a secure area. It was a huge disappointment that the hub plan fell through, as a lot of us, especially in my subdivision where the hub was supposed to be, bought houses there due to the proximity we were supposed to have to this hub. I'd love to sit up here and tell you all that yes, I'll be totally behind building new arenas, pools, and rec centers, but especially after attending the mayoral debate last night, it was abundantly clear that the funds just aren't there. I think that Brian here had some great ideas with some community partnerships and also with fundraising. I'm originally from Haldimand, and we got our new arena in Hagersville through a lot of fundraising, a lot of hard work, and that kind of thing. I guess it wasn't a new arena, it was a refab, but.
Okay, great. And Peter.
So is there a need to look at our recreational facilities? Well, I can tell you there has been a need since 1999. I sat on the Simcoe committee looking at that, and then we went into amalgamation. I had another committee, we sat on that. That one failed. And then the third one, of course, failed with the last council. Is there a need? There absolutely is. We definitely have a recreational infrastructure deficit in Simcoe. And Kristen's already mentioned the skateboard park is gone. They did have the first skateboard park in Norfolk County. Now it's gone. Tennis courts, I mean, there used to be an abundance of tennis courts. Now I know people are starting to go to Port Dover to use the one down there or the one at the golf club, which is private. So absolutely there is a need. It would be nice if we did have a hub situation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
My turn?
Yep, your turn.
All right. I obviously agree with, I agree with Ellen that we need another ice service. I'm aware of, since we closed the rec center arena, there's 5 adult men's hockey leagues that have folded that I'm aware of. That's a lot of players, a lot of adults. The kids are going to have nowhere to play when they become into the men's leagues to play. I'd like to see another swimming pool added on to the existing pool if possible, where we could keep the old pool as a therapy pool. If you get a chance, go to the city of Cambridge. In 1916, they did a hub study just like we did here, and it's very interesting. And they went into a lot of detail about the future of swimming and hockey and the costs. It was $70 million in 2016, similar to what we were going to build.
Okay, great, thank you. The next question is, we've heard complaints from residents about calls and emails not returned by county staff and by council members in Ward 5. What is your commitment to taxpayers when they reach out to you with a concern? And we'll start with Brian.
Question I didn't finish answering. My strength is communication. My phone number is on my business cards. My email address, my Instagram, my Facebook is on everything I've got. If you don't get a response from staff, reach out to me. I think we need to create a culture of customer service. Staff need to be empowered to be solution focused, to find the way to say yes instead of hiding behind an expedient no. I think we also have to start creating expectations of communication with the stakeholders. Because it's a simple matter of time management. Yeah, I know you haven't got the time to return phone calls and emails, but guess what? You also haven't got the time to not return it tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. And the person that you finally talk to is irate by the time they finally get to you. It doesn't have to be that way.
Okay, great. Christine.
All right, so communication is one of the pillars of my campaign. I've had experience with Ward 5 Council, the current council, where we had an issue in our subdivision that I wanted an answer about. I emailed our councillors more than once, and I didn't hear anything back. So what I ended up having to do was, I have a friend that works out of Cayuga for Haldeman Council in the planning department. She's a former Norfolk County employee. I had to call her, get my answer from her, and then bring that back to my community. To me, that's completely unacceptable. We need to be getting back to community members, whether it's do you know what, I don't know the answer to this, but give me a couple days, but I will follow up. There should always be a follow-up, even if it's just to say, do you know what, this really isn't a municipal issue, this is a federal or a provincial issue. You just follow up with people and you let them know where they stand.
Great, thank you. And Peter.
What will I do? Hello, Ms. Taxpayer? Yes? Your address, please? Phone number? I'll be right there. Absolutely. I've always done that. I answer my phone. I'll go up to somebody's place immediately. I'll have a look around, see what I can do to solve the problem. As a matter of fact, I'm still acting as a semi-counselor in the last 4 years because the taxpayers could not get a hold of their representatives or a staff member. They remembered that Peter Black used to be a counselor. Well, let's give him a call. Peter, I got a bed here sitting on the street. What do I do with it? Just leave it with me. Next day, I called Public Works. the staff over there seemed to still like me. So next day, that bed was gone. And that's only one example. I can give you many more, but I don't have any more time.
Okay, Doug.
I personally have heard all those rumors about staff not returning, or council not returning calls. I go, personally, I go right directly to a staff person that I think has got the most knowledge on the topic I'm interested in. It's not good when you don't answer. When I was on council, I answered all my calls, emails, if I could. Sometimes I had to get assistance of staff to give the answers properly. So.
Okay, and Alan.
Absolutely. How frustrating is it when you raise a concern and no one hears you? For me, listening and truly hearing what it is you have to say is absolutely vital. So I will return your call. I will return your email. If you are getting no response from staff, I will involve myself and just say, hey, how can I help this situation? How can I help this taxpayer? Because your concern is important to me. There is a policy and system in place at the staff level to ensure continuity of those, but I don't believe there is any sort of software related to that. There are technological advancements that we have these days in terms of CRM where you can track complaints and you can then make sure that there is actually response and something gets done about it. So I would certainly encourage we bring that to the council level as well.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so the next question is, what are your thoughts about the multi-million-dollar legacy fund? How should the fund be used to best serve the county? And we're going to start with Christine.
Okay, so with the legacy fund, I think that we need to keep it in our bank for capital. I listened to the mayoral debate last night, like many of you did, and I just think it needs to be protected so that we can continue to borrow if we need to. I think that I would be completely on board with being able to spend the interest of that money, but I think the legacy fund needs to be protected. Who knows when the next big environmental disaster will happen or something will happen in the county and we're actually going to really need that money on an emergency basis. And I think we should have something there for us to pull from. Thank you.
Okay, and Peter?
Well, I actually sat on the Norfolk Hydro, and when we deliberated this, we looked at how much Simcoe or Norfolk County was getting in terms of a dividend, and I can't remember the exact number, but it was something in the neighborhood, I think $200,000. Don't quote me on it. We looked at this very carefully and thought by selling that utility, that the interest off of the 70-odd million dollars that it generated would make more money. And in the end, it did. Yes, it fluctuates with interest rates, but they did look at an annuity with a guarantee of, at least when I left, around $2 million. So $200,000 worth of $2 million interest every year. And yes, we should protect the legacy fund, and that interest was put into the road reserve budget.
Okay, great, thank you. And Doug?
When I first got on council, and I'm not sure how it happened, but our staff had recommended the $70 million go right into this one fund. And the one fund, our financial money that we put in there was the largest contribution they had. Later on, I found out one year, our investment, we made $400,000. The one fund made $600,000 for themselves. Ridiculous. The biggest problem was we were heavy in bonds. It was all in bonds, and they did nothing. So we've tried to change it and get more into equities, and I hope that has shown some progress, but no, we can't spend it. We take money out of there every year to finance roads. I think they're putting it into a kind of a emergency fund now. There's other things, but you got to preserve the capital, and if it's invested right, you'll make lots of money. Dividends.
Okay, and Alan?
So on the Legacy Fund, I'll come back to I know what I don't know, and I must confess to you that I don't know enough about the Legacy Fund, but here's what I would say. My principle would be, don't touch the principal. I believe it was at council this week in terms of the audited financial statement that it's worth about $77 million currently, up from $76 million the year before. I have to say, $1 million growth on a $70 million principal seems a little low in 1 year. So we need to do some investigation to see that we have some best practices there and that we are using that, that money is invested wisely. Again, don't touch the principal, spend the interest, but how can we make it generate more interest? Because we need that money. It's my 2 cents.
Great. Okay, and Brian.
Well, if we're not going to invest it in a big, bold legacy project that would give us a return of more than $1 million a year, then I guess we should just sit on it and take what we can get from it and keep coming back to you with bigger tax increases every year because we didn't jump on an opportunity to create growth. Because if we don't grow, here we are. But we'll still have a legacy fund. Real estate always earns more money than cash in the bank. You buy land, land appreciates at a rate far faster than $1 million and $77 million. That's how we made money on the hub lands. It appreciated. In fact, we made more money on the hub land than we made on our legacy fund last year. Something to think about.
Okie doke. Alrighty, 2 more questions and we're going to get to the closing statement. So the next question is, over the past term of council, there have been numerous staffing changes at the senior management level. Example, 6 AAO, A6 CAOs. Oy. Wow. What do you say about the turnover at Norfolk County? And we will start with Peter Black.
Well, it's unacceptable. That's what it is. It's totally unacceptable that you have that type of a turnover in 4 years. I hate to have a look at the cost. I'm sure at some point we'll see what the severances are for 6 CAOs. When Doug and I left, we had a perfectly good CAO. And there was absolutely nothing wrong with him. We just hired him, and the next thing you know, in January, he's gone. And it is unacceptable. And hopefully the fellow that we have there now, we can work with him and carry on. It costs everybody money when you start turning over staff.
Okay, and Doug.
Thank you. One of the things I found in the budget or in the audited report the other day was it's called severances and liabilities, and one of them it's gone from $900,000 up to $1.7 million, and I assume that's only in 2021. But the problem we've got, the new staff we've hired, from what I can see, are not that experienced. So how do they lead their staff if they're not experienced? The staff are relatively new. The department heads are relatively new. And from what I've seen, I'm not sure all the counselors were all new too. So, I mean, put it all together and you got a mixed bag. Thank you.
Okay, and Alan.
Could you just repeat that question just so I have it clearly?
Sure. Over the past term of council, there have been numerous staffing changes at the senior management level. Example, 6 CAOs. What do you say about the turnover at Norfolk County?
It's unacceptable. It is truly unacceptable, and it actually hurts me. It hurts me that people are moving on to positions that are lateral and they have to drive further to get to them just simply because they don't want to work at Norfolk County anymore. That saddens me greatly. We need to take a long, hard look at why that's happened and what we need to do to fix it, because as has been said on this panel before, there is a massive cost to that kind of turnover. The trickle-down effect of that in terms of certainly severance, but also training new staff, the cost of onboarding, and then the cost of things just not getting done because we don't have the people to do it. It used to be that government jobs were the golden ticket, right? Well, that doesn't appear to be the case anymore, because the report that came to council on staffing that not that long ago was that we have offered positions to a bunch of people, but a very small percentage actually accepted it. Why is that? We need to know why, and we need to have a plan to fix it.
Great. Okay, and Brian.
I'm not surprised at how many employees have left. I'm amazed at how many remain. Norfolk County staff, thanks folks for sticking around. I appreciate it. Now let's give you the tools you need to get the job done. Because would you stay in a job where you were underpaid and ill-equipped to do the job? The reason why people don't take jobs in Norfolk County is that fun fact I mentioned earlier. We pay less than surrounding counties, and we are more expensive to live. Your net income is lower in Norfolk County. So yeah, I completely understand why the first thing that a lot of employees do is, when they get to the office, is open Indeed and see what the job opportunities are looking like in Brant and Elgin and Middlesex and Cayuga. Because if you live in the east end of the county, well, Cayuga really isn't that much more of a commute. And if you're making more money, that commute's well worth it. So let's pay people what they're worth. Let's stop being cheap.
Okay, and Christine.
Okay, so obviously 6 CAOs is a massive blow to the county, and just the support staff in general. Working in human resources, if we had that kind of leadership turnover, you would have to be trying to come forth with some committee or whatnot, some great exit interview strategy to see, you know, exactly why these people are leaving. What could we have done to make you stay? I don't know if that's implemented in Norfolk County. It's a pretty basic HR function. And then you see why people are leaving, and you take care of those problems, as long as people are answering those questions honestly, and they're on their way out the door, so why wouldn't they? So I think that we need to really be, if we're not doing it already, doing some exit plan strategies for people, and seeing why people are leaving their jobs, and see what we can do to retain them. If it's wages, then we need to raise wages, because we can't continue with the turnover with the way that it's been. Thank you.
Okay, great. Alrighty, so the last question is, what are the top 3 skills a counselor needs to possess, and what is your biggest strength? And we're going to start with Doug.
Oh, boy. Well, for me, I feel advantage in some respects with my background, but you have to be able to listen. If not, you have to be able to ask questions that are proper for staff so they can answer them. And if not, they have to go back and research. But listening, asking questions, and not criticizing staff. Try to get along with them and your fellow counselors. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. And Alan?
Number one for me, without question, is actually listening. Listening, and hearing the answer. What is it that you're saying, and what is it that you need, and how can we help you? How can I help? Anyone watch the show New Amsterdam, where his line is, "How can I help?" We need to take that approach across the county. They need to be able to ask questions, knowledgeable, informed questions. They need to read the reports, and then together we need to look for solutions. I think my biggest strength is listening. I'm reasonably good at that, and I certainly know how to ask questions given my background.
Okay, and Brian?
An effective council needs to be solution-focused, diplomatic, and able to work together and find compromises for the benefit of our community. The strength that I bring to the table is my ability to be solution-focused. See the problem, solve the problem, move on to the next problem, see it, solve it, let's keep going. And then let's communicate that to our county so that the people who live here learn to love living here. This is a great place to live. And it's easy to get caught up in the negativity, and it's easy to get focused on what we didn't have that we did have when we were kids, or whatever your frame of reference is. If we want a better community, we have to be better citizens. And I think one of the best things that our council can do is take the lead in that role. We should be seeing counselors at every event. We should be seeing counselors with shovels in their hand. We should be seeing counselors sweeping the sidewalks. We should be leading by example. And I hope you'll join us doing that.
Okay, thank you. And Christine?
Okay, so 3 skills that a counselor should possess. I agree with the panel so far as active listening, being able to listen to things and then being able to bring those things to the table in council. You also need to be able to move past disagreements pretty easily. In council, you'll be debating with people. You're not always going to see eye to eye, and you need to be able to deal with the issue and then leave the table at council, and you need to move on. And then the next time you're in council, it needs to be a fresh slate. We don't need to be holding on to grudges. And if the new council is anything like the old council, I think de-escalation skills are a skill that I possess that would be very, very prudent to have with dealing with council. Thank you.
Okay, great. And then Peter.
Well, my daughter Blythe, sitting right over there, will say that these aren't skills, but nonetheless, I'm going to put them forward. First, my love of Norfolk County. Secondly, I'm a get the job done character, with the emphasis on character. And thirdly, I'm dedicated to the people of Simcoe.
Okie doke. Great, thank you. All right, so now we're going to start with the closing remarks. Each candidate is given 2 minutes for their closing statements, and we are going to start with Christine.
All right, thank you. While canvassing over the past couple of months, a recurring theme has been the lack of communication between council and the community. My understanding of being a municipal councillor is that the community votes an individual into office whose values and agenda for the community best represent their own. In turn, the elected official has a responsibility to follow through, and I'm not going to say follow through with campaign promises, because we all know that one councillor is not the deciding vote. But as a councillor, you at the very least need to be listening to community members, replying to emails and calls, and voting on issues in the same way that you represented yourself during your campaign. You need to be staying on course of the values and community issues that got you elected in the first place. I cannot possibly know what community members' needs are over a 4-year term without having open dialogue. I can make a promise that I will return your phone calls and emails, even if it's to give you news that is undesirable to you. I'm not arrogant enough to think that I'm able to make all of the things happen that each community member finds important to them, but what I can do is find out if what you want is possible. I can get you an answer to a question that I don't know the answer to, or I can point you in the right direction to somebody that does. I can promise you that I will work as a team member with my fellow council members. I will not allow my ego or past disagreements get in the way of how I vote on an issue in order to spite someone else. I know that everyone that showed up tonight on this panel has the best interest of Norfolk County at heart. I may not agree with everything they've said, but I now know that you don't run for council just for the thrill of it. There's a huge time, emotional, and financial commitment that every one of us has taken on, and I would be happy to work with any of these people up here with me tonight, because what we do have in common is a love for this community. So in closing, I just want to leave you with this. When placing your vote on October 24th, who do you want representing you on council? Someone that you know or someone that knows you?
Very good, thank you. And Brian.
Thanks for your time tonight, folks. Please raise your hand if you feel better informed. I do. We've had a good, fair, and frank exchange of ideas here, and I'm exhausted. I hope you vote for me, but please turn out to vote. I really like you to vote for me, but most importantly, vote to keep what works and vote to get rid of what doesn't. Encourage your friends to vote, because not voting isn't protest, it's surrender. You lose your right to complain about the outcome when you don't exercise your right to vote to change the outcome. We have so much potential, and we are building momentum. The vacancy rate downtown is down. It's the lowest it's been in decades. We've got a community college, Fanshawe, that is expanding. We've got golf courses and trails and ballparks, and we've got beaches that are some of the best in Ontario. We've got a lot going for us here. We are Ontario's garden. Let's start acting like we matter, and let's start taking a bigger role in our own communities. Let's make this a place where we want to be. Thanks for your time. Vote Jones.
Okay, and over to Alan.
Okay, we have talked a lot about the problems that we have here tonight. And yes, there are many. But let's take some time to focus on the good in our town. We have some truly outstanding shops and services in Simcoe. Small business owners that are working day in and day out to deliver a great product, outstanding customer service, and more because they care. We have community groups like Church Out Serving, St. Vincent de Paul, the Salvation Army, and others working weekly to provide meals, shelter, clothing, and otherwise for those less fortunate in our town because they care. We have sports clubs like Simcoe Soccer and Minor Ball, Minor Hockey, finding more ways to offer quality athletics programming to provide our kids an opportunity to be active and to be a part of something because they care. We are a community filled with people who care. You're here tonight because you care. Democracy really does begin on the local level. I believe fiercely that municipal government is the order of government that is closest to each of us in our everyday lives. So it is incredibly important and meaningful that you've taken the time out of your busy day to join us here tonight and hear what each candidate has to say. I care about Simcoe and about Norfolk. I am passionate about this place that we call home. I believe I've shown that with my volunteer work and my dedication to our community, and I want to give back to make sure that in 15 years, in 30 years, in 50 years, Simcoe and Norfolk is still an amazing place to live, work, and play, and we are proud of it. To learn more about me and my Let's Do Better platform or to get in touch, I welcome you to visit my website at alanduthie.ca and would respectfully ask that when you go to the polls on October 24th, you vote Alan Duthie. Let's do better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Doug?
Thank you. There are many issues in the county and Ward 5, building vacancies downtown, Colburn Street reconstruction, bringing water from the lake. Our park system has deteriorated significantly. I would like to emphasize my 30-plus years of experience dealing with municipal government. All this information is on my flyer. Please pick one up after if you do not have it. I have dealt with municipal, provincial, and federal governments, served on numerous committees, and as your counselor for Ward 5 from 2014 to 18. I have worked in the land development business, most recently in Ireland Heights subdivision behind Walmart. I understand the problems and frustrations that developers have with the county firsthand. I have worked in agriculture in the U.S., and I have an understanding of the advantages and disadvantages between U.S. and Canadian farmers. Norfolk County has one of the leading farming regions in Canada with over 200,000 acres under cultivation. We seem to be a great area for attracting retirees, so why not promote the growth of our county with those two areas? I make no promises, but I will work hard as your counselor and a team player for both council and staff. Please vote. Who you vote for is your choice. It is a gift and a privilege to exercise your right. Thank you, and please vote for me on October 24th. Thank you.
Okay, and Peter?
Over the last 4 years, I've consistently heard from the taxpayers 4 different things. Lack of experience on council. Council will benefit from my experience as a multi-term councillor and deputy mayor. I was the chairman charged with establishing both Haldimand and Norfolk's planning departments. A member of over 50 county and provincial committees, I know the county procedural bylaw that governs council's behavior and actions and how to enforce them. Secondly, a lack of respect for staff and the public. No staff members should be chastised in a public forum for merely doing their job. A new council must encourage respect, trust, and teamwork. No mayor, councillor, staff member, or taxpayer is better or worse than the other. We must treat people fairly and with dignity. Only then will a council become a productive municipal service delivery organization. Thirdly, ward representatives not returning calls. I will answer my phone personally and return calls, texts, or emails promptly. Why have a municipal representative unless they are willing to communicate with you? I'll gladly meet in person or even over a coffee at Joy's Cafe. I'll even buy. Lastly, unrealistic tax increases with reduced services. The last 4 years of council-approved tax levy budgets have shown an increase of over $26 million or 31%. And what did you get? Closure of numerous facilities, abandoned downtown, deteriorating streets, and staff reductions to name but a few. By voting for Peter Black, you will have a respectful, full-time counselor who responds to you. Please read more at peterblacknorfolk.ca. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for listening.
Great. Okay, so thank you everybody for attending tonight. Thank you to all the candidates that took the time this evening to come here and talk about what you want to do for Norfolk County and why people should vote for you on October the 24th. We do hope that you have learned a lot about each of the candidates. I would encourage you that if you still have questions, reach out to the candidates, put them all to the test. They all said they were going to be listening to everybody and accepting your telephone calls. So please, if you have any questions, reach out. And I would also encourage you to, talk to other people if you think they aren't going to vote, and let's get people out there on October 24th to vote, because again, I said this last night, if you don't vote, you don't get to voice your opinion. You just doesn't count. So we need to get the numbers out there. We need to have people voting. I do want to thank Jordan from Black Creek Music this evening, and Stuart from Stoic Media, the Royal Canadian Legion staff, thank you very much. Wendy, the timekeeper, you were awesome. What a great job. Chamber staff over there, we've got Terry, Mariana, and our volunteer Jessica. And to all the chamber directors, thank you very much. And to Emma, great job tonight, co-hosting as well too. So again, October 24th, please get out and vote. And I do have one announcement. The Port Dover Board of Trade will be doing a Ward 6 Council debate night. It will be at the Lighthouse Festival Theater on Wednesday, October the 5th. The doors open at 6 p.m. and the debate starts at 6:30. And questions can be sent to info@portdover.ca. There's also a debate in Delhi, and I see Mike, you're here. Is that on October the 6th? October the 6th at the German Hall. Wes, you're here as well too. And there's also one in the Port Rowan area. And I did say those dates last night, but I can't remember what they are, and I didn't write them down. So again, thank you again this evening to all the candidates. You all did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.